My name is Kai Lee, and I am 32 years old. If I don't say this out loud, I'm going to lose my mind. 3 years ago, at a friend's barbecue, I met Ethan, tall, dimple that only showed up when he laughed, the kind of easy warmth that makes you forget how to breathe. For 6 months, I lived in a small, golden universe he curated just for me. He left sticky notes on my kettle with terrible puns. "You're my steepest crush." He made gym playlists for me, even though he hated my music. He learned my snack habits and ambushed my pantry with tiny arrows. "Kai, look here," as if finding sea-salted almonds could count as treasure. Then I met his mother. Linda ran a women's empowerment group called The Standard, the way a conductor runs an orchestra. Sharp, exacting, accustomed to obedience. Our first dinner together turned into an interview. Midway through the roast chicken, she produced a spiral notebook and said, "I document. Clarity prevents heartache." She asked my relationship philosophy. I laughed, waiting for the joke to land. It didn't. Red flag number 1. I ignored it because I was in love, and love sometimes blurs neon into candlelight. 8 months in, Ethan and I started talking in future tense. We looked at rings. We practiced saying "we" with a mortgage. That's when Linda mentioned a course her church ran. Wife training. 6 months every Sunday. Essential skills for modern wives. I remember blinking. I'm 32. I've lived alone since 19. I know how to be a functioning adult. Ethan's eyes went glassy. He said his mom was disappointed. He said if I loved him, I'd invest in our foundation. He said all the sentences that sound like a choice when what they mean is prove it. I should have said no. Instead, I said I'd check it out. The church basement was colder than the sanctuary, lit by buzzing fluorescent lights that made even the cupcakes look accusatory. A whiteboard read, "Welcome future wives," in cheerful blue. 4 other women stood around the folding tables the way people linger near an exit. We exchanged numbers after that first session and created a group chat. We gave ourselves a name we'd never dare post in public: Survivors of Linda. Module 1. Scheduling. We were told to maintain shared Google calendars with MIL pre-approval for personal time. I submitted a gym block. Linda declined it and replaced it with family breakfast. The facilitator, Patricia, Linda's friend, smiled like a dentist and said, "When families come first, women are protected." The other women nodded, pencils squeaking. I felt my jaw hinge shut. Right then, I made a decision. I would finish the course and document everything. Not to win. To be sure I wasn't imagining the manipulation. Texas's one-party consent. I put a tiny recorder on the table, in plain view, and said, "I'd like a record so I can study these lessons." Linda clapped her hands in delight. "We record too, for quality assurance." The sentence curled in my notebook like a snake. Foreshadowing tastes like metal. Module 2. Financial transparency. We were expected to hand over bank logins not just to our partners, but to our mothers-in-law for accountability. I asked if that was a joke. Patricia wrote, "Resistant to transparency," in angry red and pushed a bowl of mints toward me like absolution. Between modules, Ethan started mentioning a woman from his past with increasing frequency, Jade, his ex-girlfriend from a startup that went nowhere, but left them both with big words like vision and execution. He said they'd bumped into each other at a networking event. He said she gave great advice. He said it the way people say, "It's just weather," during a hurricane watch. Module 3. Emotional availability. Role play time. Your boyfriend is upset because his mother criticized your cooking. What do you say? I answered honestly. I'd remind him his mother's opinion isn't God, and he can cook however he wants. Wrong. The correct answer was, "Would it help if we invite your mother over so I can learn her recipes?" I read the card twice to see if I'd misread the era. Linda's eyes glittered. I started to notice how the lessons formed bars on a cage. You don't get to be right. You get to be accommodating. You don't get privacy. You get supervision. You don't get boundaries. You get a checklist. One Sunday during a break, I sat on the steps that smelled faintly of bleach and old hymnals and listened to the buzz of the soda machine. Ethan texted a photo of coffee with a caption, "Jade says hi." Something in my chest did a small, tired somersault. I told myself not to be petty. I told myself I was almost done. I told myself that once I graduated, we'd have our peace. Module 4, Conflict Resolution introduced the 3 strikes rule. You state your case up to 3 times. If your boyfriend still disagrees, you drop it and trust his wisdom. I asked, what if he's factually wrong? About money, safety, healthcare? Linda said, bright as sugar. Love means trust, not correction. I underlined the sentence until the paper furred. Module 5, Social Boundaries. Men were encouraged to maintain support systems, late happy hours, weekend trips, poker nights. Wives were advised to avoid situations that create confusion, mixed gender outings, trips without explicit MEAL sign-off. When I asked if the freedom also applied to us, Patricia laughed so hard she had to dab her eyes. That's different, sweetie. I wrote it down, word for word, date and time. By Module 6, we were assigned a final assessment. Plan a mock anniversary weekend with MIL approval for budget, dates, and activities. I made a 10-page binder, color-coded itineraries, backup plans for rain, a restaurant list considering food allergies, an envelope of printed confirmations like a nervous concierge. Linda lifted my binder like Simba at Pride Rock. This, she said to the room, is a wife who gets it. The other women clapped, because that's what you do when the warden says, good girl. I smiled and wrote the date in my notes. After Ethan left, the apartment felt sterile, like a hotel you'd just checked out of but hadn't yet stripped the bed in. His toothbrush was gone, but his scent still lived in the fibers of my couch. The last thing he said to me before walking out was, "You're too perfect, Kai. I need a challenge." It was almost funny. I'd spent 6 months in a course that tried to sand down every imperfection, and somehow that made me unlovable. 3 weeks later, I found out what challenge meant. I was scrolling through Instagram late one night, trying to fill the silence. And there it was, Ethan and Jade in matching black outfits at a concert. Caption: finally found someone who keeps me on my toes. The photo stung, but what followed made my stomach twist. The account was flooded with hashtags. Hashtag mindset coach, challenge method, financial freedom. Jade's feed was a temple to self-delusion. Luxury cars and dealership lots. Inspirational quotes pasted over gym selfies. Testimonials from clients with usernames like Growth Warrior 21. Every post came with a promise of a 6-figure mindset through her challenge method. Subscription link in bio. $297 a month, or $5,000 upfront for the premium mentorship tier. I clicked on the site out of morbid curiosity. It looked like something from the MySpace era. Low-resolution photos, misspelled words, grand claims about unlocking your financial potential. Ethan had liked every single post. 2 months passed. I started laughing again, not because it was funny, but because disbelief was easier than bitterness. I had therapy, friends, and the survivors of Linda group chat to keep me grounded. We shared memes, screenshots, sometimes silent support when one of us backslid into self-doubt. Then, one night, around 11 p.m., my phone rang. Linda. I didn't answer. She called again. Then a text popped up. Please answer. Emergency. My heart sank. Against my better judgment, I called back. Her voice was trembling. Kai, something terrible's happened. Jade's been arrested. Fraud charges. Ethan's devastated. Bail is $15,000. The lawyer wants a $10,000 retainer. You're the only one who can help. For a moment, I said nothing. I just stared at the ceiling fan spinning above me. You're asking me to bail out your son's girlfriend, the one he left me for? Linda exhaled sharply. Ethan made a mistake. He sees that now. You've always been responsible, Kai. Stable. We don't have that kind of money right now. Everything's tied up in the house. Her voice cracked. Please, you loved him once. Do this for him. I actually laughed. Loud enough that it startled even me. Linda, let me get this straight. I took your wife training course, passed every twisted test, got dumped for being too perfect, and now that your son's challenge is in jail for fraud, you want me to pay her bail? Kai? She wanted a challenge, I said, my voice steady now. Well, this is it. Not my circus, not my monkeys, not my $15,000. I hung up. Then I blocked her number. The next morning, Ethan called from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. Kai? Hey, it's me. Listen, Jade's situation is complicated. It's not what it looks like. She's innocent. Of what? Stealing people's money or stealing your common sense? Come on, he said, using that soft, coaxing tone he used whenever he was about to lie. Some clients didn't get results and now they're mad. The state's just overreacting. Ethan, I'm sorry, but if this is about money, he cut me off. Linda said you might help with bail. She said you're still close. I laughed again, sharper this time. She lied. We're not close. We're not anything. Kai, please, you know I'm not built for this kind of stress. You said you wanted a challenge, I said quietly. Now you have one. Congratulations. I hung up. Then I blocked that number too. Later that day, our old survivors of Linda group chat lit up. Marcus. Yo, anyone see Ethan's new girlfriend got arrested? Leah. The mindset coach? No way. I dropped the local news article. Local woman arrested for operating fraudulent coaching business. The comments came fast. Maya. She really was his challenge. Challenged by the law. Tina. Linda called my fiancé asking for donations. Girls bold. We laughed. We shouldn't have. But after everything that course took from us, it felt good to win something back. I didn't know it yet, but that was just the beginning. Because Jade's arrest was about to tear the Standard apart from the inside. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel powerless. I felt ready. The headlines spread faster than wildfire. Local mindset coach charged with fraud. Over $80,000 taken from clients. And in the corner of every photo was someone I used to love, Ethan, standing behind Jade in his tailored shirt, the same half smile he used to wear when introducing me to his mother's church friends. At first, I thought maybe the reporters got it wrong, but then a second article appeared. Business partner under investigation. Couple-operated scheme through faith-based women's network. That's when the pieces clicked. They'd used the Standard, Linda's so-called empowerment group, as a recruiting pool. Women trusted Linda. They trusted her son. They trusted the nice girl he'd once been with. Only I wasn't there anymore. In the Survivors of Linda chat, the updates flew. Leah, someone just posted about Jade in the Standard Facebook group. Marcus, comments are brutal. Maya, people are asking who approved her mentorship sessions. Then, out of nowhere, an audio clip surfaced. It was Linda's voice. Wives require structure. Husbands deserve freedom. It's biology. When women respect authority, relationships flourish. The internet did what it does best. It devoured her. Women in the group began to revolt, posting screenshots from the course binders, comparing notes. One wrote, "My husband said this course felt wrong. I didn't believe him. Now I see it." Another, "We were taught control, not love." Within 48 hours, the Standard collapsed. The church suspended all affiliated programs. Linda was asked to step back indefinitely. For a woman who once treated power like oxygen, silence must have been suffocating. Then came the second arrest. I was brushing my teeth when my phone buzzed. Marcus again. "Dude, check the news." I opened the link, toothbrush still in my mouth. Second arrest in coaching fraud case. Male partner identified as Ethan Reynolds. The article detailed how Ethan had managed client communications and refunds. He wasn't a bystander, he was the architect. He and Jade had been running multiple schemes under different business names for over a year. Reading that, I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt empty. Because for all of Linda's talk about perfection, this was what her standards had produced. Manipulation, greed, collapse. 2 days later, I got an email from a law firm. Subject: Assistance in ongoing civil case, the Standard Connection. An attorney representing several of Jade's victims had discovered my name in an old discussion thread. They asked if I still had the recordings from the wife training course. I hesitated. Those files were my ghosts. I'd stored them on 3 hard drives, labeled simply L. The attorney's tone was calm but deliberate. We're trying to establish a pattern of coercive influence. Some of the victims were members of the Standard. If we can prove Linda's methods mirrored the manipulative tactics used in Jade's scam, it strengthens our case. That sentence, the same methods, made my stomach knot. I spent the next 3 days re-listening to those sessions, noting timestamps. Linda demanding financial accountability, Patricia urging obedient conflict resolution, the laughter when someone questioned fairness. Each word now sounded different, uglier. It wasn't etiquette training, it was conditioning. So I sent the files. Every recording, every note, neatly indexed with time and date. The lawyer thanked me. You probably just helped 30 women get restitution. Weeks passed. Linda's house went on the market. The standard Facebook group disappeared. News outlets confirmed the settlement. The victims would receive partial compensation. And the final clause, tucked in the footnotes of the judgment, read, Linda Reynolds is permanently prohibited from operating or consulting in any relationship, coaching, or empowerment program. Her life's work, legally dead. When I heard the verdict, I didn't cheer. I just sat in my living room, lights dim, and whispered, finally. For months, I'd questioned myself. Was I overreacting? Too sensitive? Ungrateful? But the truth had come full circle. I wasn't broken. Their system was. That night, I went through my old binder, the one from the final assessment. On the first page, I had once scribbled in red ink, love means trust, not correction. I drew a line through it. Then I wrote, love means equality, not obedience. And for the first time in a long while, the air around me felt light again. 6 months later, justice finally found its rhythm. Jade took a plea deal. 3 years in prison, 5 years probation, restitution to every woman she and Ethan defrauded. Ethan, of course, tried to fight it. Claimed he was manipulated. Claimed he didn't know. But the prosecutors had the receipts. Literally. Emails, payment records, texts where he told Jade, delay refunds till next month. Keep them hopeful. When the guilty verdict came down, I didn't feel triumphant. I just closed my laptop and sat in silence. Sometimes the end of a nightmare doesn't look like fireworks. It looks like paperwork. Linda sold her house to pay for Ethan's defense and the victim's restitution. The woman who once demanded financial transparency from everyone else now had to report her own spending to the court. The irony was surgical. I heard she'd started volunteering at a public library, alphabetizing books, keeping her head down. The first time I saw her name in a local paper again, it wasn't under director. It was in a footnote. Linda Reynolds, former head of the Standard, now community volunteer. That was the final echo of her empire. Then, out of nowhere, a letter arrived in my mailbox. No return address, but the handwriting was familiar, precise, elegant, the way people who love control always write. It was from Ethan. Kai, I don't expect you to respond. I just wanted to say I see everything now. Jade was a disaster. Mom was wrong. You were right. I thought I wanted adventure, but I was really just running from stability because stability scared me. You scared me because you knew who you were. I didn't. I'm sorry. I read it once, folded it neatly, and tucked it back into the envelope. I didn't throw it away, but I didn't answer either. Some apologies aren't for the person who hears them. They're for the person trying to sleep at night. A week later, another letter came. This one did have a return address from the correctional facility. Linda. 8 pages of what could only be described as confession. You were right about everything, Kai. The course wasn't empowerment. It was control. I built it to fix the kind of marriage I failed to have, and I ended up breaking other people instead. I taught women to micromanage love because I didn't know how to keep it. I am so, so sorry. At the end, she wrote one final sentence that stopped me cold. You were the first woman in that room to say no, and I punished you for it. But you saved all of us from continuing that cycle. I placed the letter beside Ethan's and left both on the kitchen counter for a week before moving them to a drawer. Not to keep their words, but to remind myself how far I'd come. Time softened everything after that. I started therapy again, the real kind. No modules, no binders, no 3-strike systems. Just me and a chair and silence that didn't demand obedience. For the first time in my adult life, I wasn't performing love. I was learning peace. And that's when I met Noah. It was stupidly cinematic. A rainy afternoon, a tiny bookstore that smelled like coffee and old paper. He was reaching for a book on the top shelf. I was reaching for the same one. He laughed first. Go ahead. I'll just pretend I'm being chivalrous. Wow, I said. That line's been gathering dust right beside this book. He grinned. Then it's vintage. That makes it charming. Something about the ease of it, the lack of agenda, made me stay a little longer. We ended up talking for an hour about nothing. Dogs, terrible first apartments, the best ramen in town. When he finally asked for my number, it didn't feel like an interview. It felt like an invitation. A year later, we were living together. No courses, no rules, no modules, just 2 adults figuring it out. Sometimes he'd tease me when I double-checked plans. You always document everything, he'd say. And I'd smile, because he didn't know how literal that was. I still have the recordings. Everyone. Not as a weapon, not for revenge, just as proof that I wasn't crazy. Proof that my boundaries were never unreasonable. Last month, I got an email from the same lawyer who'd handled the victim's case. They wanted permission to use my recordings in a training seminar for identifying coercive relationship programs. They called it the anatomy of control. I said yes, because if my old life could become someone else's warning sign, then maybe it all meant something. When I look back now, I don't see tragedy. I see data. I see growth charts in human form, mistakes plotted into lessons. Ethan will serve his time. Jade will rebuild her life however she can. Linda will shelve books and pay restitution till the end of her days. And me? I wake up in an apartment where nobody needs permission to go to the gym, where love is quiet, not performative, where perfect doesn't mean compliant. Sometimes I think about that alternate version of myself, the one who stayed, who smiled through the modules, who said nothing. She'd be living a life that belonged to someone else. But I'm here, free. And maybe, just maybe, sometimes the good girls win. Graduation day arrived with a country club ballroom, a slideshow of stock photos of smiling women folding towels, and cupcakes in passive-aggressive pink. Each woman went up to the mic and thanked Linda and Patricia for raising our standards. My turn came. My legs were steady in a way I didn't expect. I said thank you, then I said the truth. This course taught me a lot. What conditional love looks like, what control dressed as care sounds like, and that I'd rather live alone than spend my life asking my boyfriend's mother for permission to go to the gym. Silence draped itself over the room. I lifted my glossy certificate and tore it in half, then in half again. I dropped the 4 pieces into the trash can by the cupcake table. I turned to Ethan. I love you. If you want a partner, call me. If you want a puppet, your mom already has the strings. I walked out. The next morning, Ethan texted, "We need to talk. Coffee shop at 4. He looked wrecked, but defensive. "You embarrassed yourself," he said. "My mom was trying to help." I said his mom was trying to manage me like a project. He said I'd been manipulative to play along for 6 months just to prove a point. I said he cried and told me I didn't love him if I didn't. He stared at the window and said, "I need to think." 3 days later, a text. "You did everything they asked. You became exactly what they wanted. Now you're too perfect. I need a challenge. Someone more unpredictable." He said he was going to reconnect with Jade. I looked at the message until the words unfocused. Then I put my phone down, pressed my palm to my sternum, and felt my heartbeat climb back to a normal pace. There are moments in your life when the world goes quiet, not the good kind, the kind you get in the split second after a crash, right before the screaming starts. I didn't scream. I opened my notes app and typed a single sentence. "Keep the recordings. You're not crazy."